Today we are taking a detailed look at G.I. Joe's first Sergeant Duke in his version 2 color scheme, and we'll be comparing him to his vintage figure from 1983. So fall in, soldiers! Hey everyone, welcome back to Toy Habits, and today we are taking a detailed look at the G.I. Joe Classified Series Field Variant, aka Redeco version of Duke, and comparing him to his vintage self from 1984. And we even have some tips to share from the one and only Brandon Baumer on how to make this version, and the last version for that matter, even better. So let's start, as we always do, by looking at the front of the box, and Duke comes in the G.I. Joe Classified Series window display where you can see all of his accessories that he comes with. So let's first take a look at the box art. And let's zero in on Duke on the front of the box, and you can see a very interesting animation style here, and it looks very different from the box arts that I'm used to seeing. And they did take some liberties in his color scheme here with his rifle. So you have a blue rifle with some red accents here, and it kind of reminds me of the accessory pack colors that came with the figures in the early 80s. So I know that there were a lot of reds and blues in those accessory packs, but I don't think this is an homage to that. It's just somebody taking some liberties in the color scheme. I do like the way that Duke's face is drawn. He's got a lot of emotion, and he just looks really determined. And looking at the side of the box, you see a really large blast effect that's running through the side of the box to the front of the box, which creates a very cool effect. And looking at Duke at the top of the box, he looks like he's in the shadows with his pistol, but the way that he was drawn and the way that he was colored, he kind of looks like Grand Admiral Thrawn from the Star Wars series. So I'm not really sure if they meant to color him a little darker, make it a little blacker, but he just kind of looks blue. Now, looking at the bottom of the box, I think the color rendering that they did here was a better execution than the top, and it looks like he is punching the lights out of Cobra Commander, and I love the way that the animation is styled here. They did a much better job with the coloring of Duke, putting him in the shadows. He looks a lot less blue. He actually looks like he is in the shadows here, and I love the way that they did this art style down here, as it looks like it's kind of pulled straight from a comic book. You could really see the words like "pow" coming in through there. And looking at the back of the box, you see Duke down here in the bottom right, and he looks like he is determined to go either find something or go somewhere. But I really love the way that this was drawn, and I really love his expression on his face and just the way that he is crouched with his pistol. And it looks like they've done his deco and his version 1 colors, which is fine. I don't expect them to update the backs of the boxes because they've changed some minor variations in the color scheme with the figures. And finally, taking a look at the side of the box, let's take a look at what Duke is known for. He is a level 4 leader. He is a level 2 at wielding light weaponry. He is a level 3 at skydiving, and a level 4 tactician, which you would expect from a sergeant. Now, I know we are looking at the version 2 redeco of Duke here, but I wanted to bring in his version 1 color scheme because I'm actually just going to be opening one of these. I don't need two of them, and I think that the version 1 is just too overdone with all the colors and the shin armor, and I'm more of a traditionalist, and I love the version 2 colors because they are a heck of a lot more subdued, and they look like what I'm used to seeing in the vintage figure. So what do you do if you bought the first version and you were not happy with it? What if you wanted to give the figure a more classic look and feel? Well, look no further, because Brandon Baumer is at it again, and he used a version 1 G.I. Joe Classified Series Duke and did the following modifications to it. He removed the shin guards and resculpted and painted the boots, and you can see in the close-up shots where he used an X-Acto knife and resculpted the boots, and I really love what he did with these boots as they make the figure look a lot less bulky. He also painted the gloves to remove the red highlights to match the dark olive accents on the figure, and he even added a little silver to the watch to give it a sports and tactical look. And according to Brandon, he added some orange highlights to mix things up, but the silver helped tone everything down. He did keep the red flaps on his shoulders as he liked the formal look, and I agree. Leaving that color makes the figure pop that much more. He also kept the flaps on the shoulders, which was a very good move. His ultimate goal was not to mod the figure so it ended up looking exactly like the Redeco V2 Duke, but the custom that Brandon did is my favorite look by far for this figure. The mods were done in all the right places to give him that 80s feel while still retaining that more updated look that the Classified series is known for. And with that, let's continue on with the review of Duke, and thanks Brandon for sending us what you did. Keep them coming. And as usual, we are going to look at Duke body part by body part before getting into his accessories. So let's first start off with the head sculpt, and there is so much to love about this head sculpt. So let's start with his facial features. I love the way they've done his facial features here with his cheekbone detail, and it looks like he is gritting or grinding his teeth because you can kind of see the protrusions down here that they've added on the side of his face. So I think it just gives him a very realistic look. They've also added a scar on the top of his forehead, which I actually don't know where he got the scar from. So if anybody knows, can you please put it in the comments below? Also, his nose sculpt is done very well. I haven't seen a better looking nose on a figure than Duke, and it just looks so realistic, and I love the way that his eyebrows are drawn. They match his hair, and speaking of his hair, they did an amazing job just giving him a fade and some highlights here. So in the box, actually, I thought his hair was a more gold color, but it is more of like a mustard yellow, but I really love the way that they did his hair, and it goes from really long on top to a little bit shorter on the side to a lot shorter on the bottom. So they gave him a really nice fade here. And while we're looking at the side profile, the ear detail is amazing. And I don't know if this is a defect in the sculpt, but it looks like they gave him a vein here. And if we turn it around to the side, there is not one on this side, but you can see some other sculpting detail here where you can see some of the sculpting that they've done on his neck just to make him a lot more realistic. And while we have Duke in this position, you can see his eyes a lot better because in the light box, the brows cast a shadow on the eye, so you really can't see them. So you can kind of see that his eyes are blue, and I really love the way that they've done the eyes here, as it just makes this figure look so realistic and so great. All right, now zeroing in on Duke's upper torso, let's start from the top and work our way to the bottom. So first off, you can see that they've actually given Duke a white shirt, which amazes me because I can never tell whether the coloring that they're giving underneath these figures is a shirt or not. And I'm going to bring in Lady J so you can see what I mean here. Now with Lady J, they've given her more of a flesh tone shirt, and I'm actually not sure if that's her skin or if it's her shirt because I can't see any stitching detail like they have up in Duke's shirt here. So I'm really not sure if they've given her a shirt or if it's her skin color, and I think also Destro suffers from that same problem. All right, and taking a closer look at his shirt detail, the colors that they're using for his upper shirt are more of like a dark green, and it's not necessarily an olive green like his bandolier, but it's more of a blackish green, and I actually couldn't tell until I got the figure out of the box that this was actually the color green. So I think the shirt detail is very well done. You can see the loops and the little button that they have here up on his shoulder, and they've given him a lot of wrinkle detail here in his shirt, which makes it look very realistic, and they've given him some pockets on his shirt as well as some buttons that run up and down the middle of his shirt. So as far as shirts goes, it looks very well done, and it just looks very realistic with all of the wrinkle detail and just how it's fitting on Duke. And taking a look at his bandolier, and this bandolier is actually removable, so you can manipulate it up and down, and you might be able to take it off, but I'm not going to. But I really like the way that they did the coloring here on the top of his bandolier with the clip detail. They've actually used a couple different colors here. They've used more of a darker silver, and they've used some silver accents in the comm link and some gold accents as well, which really sets it off. And as usual, the pouch detail is amazing here. You can see the stitching on the bandolier, and it looks like there is a belt buckle there that's just clipping everything together. You can see the zippers in the pockets on the bandolier, and if we turn it around, you get to see some more sculpting detail. There's another clip back here as well as another pouch. And taking a look at his arms, let's first start off with his right arm, and it looks like they've continued that green color onto his shoulder here, which looks really great. And they've also continued the wrinkle detail in his bicep on his arm, and I love the muscle detail here, which looks very realistic. And looking at his glove, we have a brown glove that has a dark green accent, and it's the same color that's on his shoulder here. And it looks like they've given him a bracelet, and they've even put some detail in the bracelet here. And turning him around to the left side, they've also continued that green color here. They've also added some splashes of green, and they've even given him a green elbow pad. And there are a couple different colors going on here. We have that green elbow pad, and it looks like there's either a black or brown coloring to his elbow pad, which it looks really weird when you actually articulate the elbow, and I wish they would have colored in the yellow here, but it looks a lot better when his arm is straight. And taking a look at the glove and his other hand, they've given him a timepiece on his wrist, and you can see some of the sculpting detail here in the light for this watch. And I love the way that they've done the watch strap here, and he has the same glove that he has on his right hand. So it's another brown glove with a dark green accent on the knuckles. And moving down to the belt detail, they've given him a removable belt that you can twist around, and they've really did a good job with the color scheme here with the silver buckle in the middle. You can see the green pouches. They've added a splash of blue, and if you turn it around, he's got some more pouches on the back, and I love the riveting detail that they've given on the back of the belt here. It just looks really, really good on this figure. Now I've upped the contrast on the camera a little bit so you can just see the subtle variations in the pant detail with respect to the color. So they have some olive green coloring on the pants, and they also have that dark green coloring that you'll find here, and I love the way that it's alternating. I love the texture that they put on these pants, and I love the horizontal lines that are going through it, as well as the wrinkle detail that they've added up towards the crotch area. And yes, I said crotch. And looking at his holster is not molded to his leg, so it is a piece that can come off, and it looks like it's the standard holster that comes with Flint, but it's just in green that matches his belt and his bandolier. So some of the aspects that I really like about these holsters is the stitching detail that they're giving on the holster straps, as well as the clip detail, and I think just the holsters in general are just really, really well crafted and really well sculpted. And taking a look at his knee pads, his shin armor, and his shoes, let's first take a look at the knee pads. And I think these knee pads are very well done. They have some differentiating colors. They do have that olive green with a touch of silver on the bottom, which makes the knee pads pop. And the shin armor is done in a very similar way. And I love the design here where they have the dark green pattern down here with the silver accents up on top, and they've even given the shin armor battle damage, which I think is super cool. And finally, let's take a look at my favorite parts of these figures, the shoes and the boots. So let's take a look at the side profile here, and you can see some sculpting detail that they've added to the side. I love the way that they did the sole of the shoe on this figure, and they even gave him laces, and you can see that he is wearing a boot as the green straps kind of go around the brown parts of the boot back here. And Duke is packaged with several accessories, so let's first take a look at this smaller gun. And I really didn't know what to think about this gun when I saw it in the package, because I wasn't super fond of the gold accents on it, but now that I have it in my hand, it actually looks really cool, and I love the way that the gold kind of plays off the black here, and it just makes it look a lot more interesting. And I think this is the same gun that they've given the Baroness and Destro and a few other Joes and Cobra soldiers in the line. And taking a look at his larger rifle, we have some really nice detail on the rifle. My favorite parts of the gun are the butt of the gun, the scope, and the circular kind of roundish handle. It looks more like a cylinder than a handle, and I think it makes the piece look a lot more interesting than just a straight blunt handle here. And you can see the blunt end of the gun as usual in this line, and I think this weapon looks really amazing. And we have a different take on his binoculars. They actually gave him a monocular, which looks like there is a lot of tech built in here. This is not your old school binocular or monocular, and the sculpting detail on here is great. And I love the way that they've done the monocular in this version. And it's a very simple piece, but I think the execution of it is done really, really well. And if you turn the monocular over, you'll notice that there is a plug on the back here, which is used to attach to Duke's belt. So it kind of gives Duke a little bit more interesting look on his belt, which I will show you in a second. And finally, we have his backpack, and this is a pretty standard looking backpack. It's green with a shovel on it. It kind of looks like a camping backpack with a couple cantinas strapped to it, but I do love the way that the fabric looks like it's folded down here, and I love the stitching detail on this backpack. And I love that they actually put the stitching detail on the back here, which you actually can't see when it's strapped to the figure's back. And here is that hole that I was talking about. That's in Duke's belt, and you can attach the monocular this way, and it's really up to you whether you like the look of the monocular up or if you like the look of the monocular down. And I think I like the look of the monocular up because really you're only seeing this front profile here, and I think the monocular looks a lot better in this orientation, in my opinion. And here is Duke reporting for duty, all geared up, and I just love the way his weapons and accessories just fit the classic nature of this figure. And I actually thought that the bandolier would cause some problems with the backpack, but they actually gave him a longer peg in his backpack, so you can actually fit the backpack on very securely and it's not going to fall off. And now it's time for my favorite part of these reviews, the vintage figure comparison with the G.I. Joe classified figure. And let's start with the top of the head. And in this version of Duke in the classified series, they did not give him a helmet, but let's take a look at the hairstyles. And the hairstyles look very similar in the way that they're flowing on the head and they're sculpted. You can also see the touches of green that they've added in the vintage figure and in the classified figure. And I really like the way that they've kind of changed it up a little bit and didn't just kind of copy the straight color scheme of the vintage figure here. So they gave Duke in the classified series look a tan collar versus a green collar, and the bandoliers are colored similarly, and I think Duke has a grenade on his chest here, which they've removed in the classified figure. And on both of these figures, they made sure to include his jump wings on his right chest area here, which I think is cool. And looking closer at the weapons and accessories, let's take a look at the guns here. And the guns look very different from each other, and it's not a straight ripoff of the vintage figure gun, although it does share similar aspects to the vintage figure. So for example, this longer handle that runs down here, I think is similar to the way that they've done the front of Duke's gun in the classified series. But overall, I think both weapons look great, and I think they fit the style for each figure. And they've also paid homage to Duke's binoculars in the classified series by giving him a very technologically advanced monocular, but I really love the way that this monocular is done because I really thought the way that the binoculars laid on Duke were a little bit weird, as they didn't really lie really flat on the figure, so they always stuck out. And last thing we'll look at here are the differences and similarities in the backpack. So they've really paid homage to Duke's vintage backpack by including the shovel here, and it just looks like a standard backpack across both of these, but they did add some cantina sculpting to the classified figure, which makes it look a lot better than the vintage backpack sculpt. Hasbro really captured the classic look and feel of Duke with the recolored paint app, and if you had to choose between the first release and this one, I would definitely go with the redeco. And you can even go with Brandon's mod if you want to take it a step further. We hope you enjoyed this review of the G.I. Joe Classified Series Duke, and if you did, hit that thumbs up button and don't forget to subscribe to the channel on your way out, and thanks for tuning in to Toy Habits.